Okay, so interactive toast. So this is a new feature in Windows 10, interactive toast, where you can create actionable items in a toast notification format. So you'll see that this basic one shows minimum size balloon. This one actually will allow you to send a notification back and process it either through a background task or through your application in a background scenario where your whole application doesn't start up. It just processes that reply. So it allows you to basically set that, accept the response from the toast notification, and then action it in a background task. Across the side, you swiped it out of the way. Now you have the ability to actually pull down when it comes down and deal with the toast right then and there. If it's an action toast, you can, just like you can on the desktop, click into it and perform the actions as expected by the toast. Or swipe up and get rid of it. Okay, dismiss it. Any questions? No? So here's a template that actually lets you place an image over top of where it would be, the template would normally be expecting the application tile or the application badge logo. Remember when we were looking at the app manifest and I showed you that badge logo, that tiny little wee icon, right? That's normally what would appear here. But this particular template allows you to set the placement as app logo override, which means it will just put that image that you've specified over top of where it would expect to see the original logo. You know what I want to try with this, LJ? I want to try and make something that uses this, but mostly transparent to see if the app logo is still behind it. It just lays it on top. I'm curious. I haven't played with that yet. Anyways, other than that, the rest of it is fairly standard. You'll see that the image placement is in line for the attachment. So you're able to put an image right in line with that particular text so that it runs along in the line. And then essentially, this visual here will end up acting very similar to a spec panel where it's laid out. So, taking input from a toast. This basically is the standard notification from Cortana saying, hey, it's time to go. If you don't leave now, you're going to be late. Where were you today, Cortana? Anyways, this here allows you to set an input input with a type of selections and then assign selections. So you can customize that, so it doesn't always have to be the same amount of time or the same amount of the scenario. Yay, just 1 second. Okay, so here's where you can actually institute your own toast notification and create a snooze, which will then work with the system. So this is basically a system action that you're instituting. So basically you're telling it to say, hey, hide this toast now for this amount of time. Okay, so then this action here, the activation type is system. So it basically tells the system, act like this toast didn't happen for another 5 minutes or however much time this person put here. The other activation type is a system activation type of dismiss. get rid of the toast. It doesn't need to be shown in the notification center. The user doesn't need this again. So here is customizing a toast that allows you to create a background action. So here, this activation type is background. So this will literally stimulate a background task and send the information to it. So in this case, this action here on this button is basically saying send the item to the background and then dismiss this notification. So we have several different types of activations that are new. Okay, so we have an activation type which is foreground. So you tap the button, the application launches, it retrieves arguments from the toast notification, and then it can take actions. So in your OnLaunch action in your application, in your OnLaunch event in your application, you will have a set of arguments that's passed in. Your arguments can be sent in from several different locations, deep links, different things. Toasts are one of them. Your arguments that you are sending from the toast will be stated there. So what will happen is you'll have the ability to say, this toast is this grouping and this particular ID. And you can, if you set those to be specific things, then you know how to have your application react. So for example, in Tartan, if I have a toast notification from a mention in a team, I assign the team as the group and the channel or the place where the mention happened as the ID. And when you tap it, that information comes back to the OnLaunch. The application sees that when it opens and goes, oh, I have to open up this team and go to this channel. That's where the mention is. That's how you end up seeing the exact place where you were mentioned when you press on that particular mention. It's the same type of thing that the email toasts do, that when you got an email from so-and-so, it sends out the grouping is the email account, the ID is the message ID. And so it opens up email with the right account open and the right, scroll to the right message ID. So that's a foreground. So that actually already exists. This has already existed in Windows 8.0 and 8.1, and Windows Phone 8.1 and 8.0 as well. Now, background is new. Background is fun and exciting because now you can have toast notifications do something for the user without opening up your whole application, which sounds really counterproductive except for the cool factor that keeps the users always wanting to use your application, which will actually surprisingly increase the amount of times the user goes into your application. So tapping on the button, the background task launches, retrieves the arguments, same way the OnLaunch does in the application, takes the actions, and then the background task goes. So this is a whole new type of background task that's triggered by toasts, right? Triggered by system calls from things like toast notifications. Now, protocol. This is the ability to create a particular type of link or URI, system URI, that will either initiate a whole other app, look for it in the store to load it, or initiate the ability to open a particular file or file type, or go to a website. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can do with protocol. Okay? Any questions about that? It's a little A little complicated, and I know that I'm sort of fluffing over it, but it does a lot. There's a lot that you can do with it. For example, you could be generating an application, you could be writing an app that in a background task generates a PDF, and when the PDF is finished, you can send a toast notification that says your receipt or your invoice is complete. And you can have a toast notification that literally would trigger with the protocol the ability to tap it to see the receipt or the invoice or whatever it is. When you tapped it, using the protocol, it would look to see if the user even had an app that could open a PDF, and if it didn't, take them to the store to get one. Once they ticked onto the store to get one, open up the PDF. A lot of really cool stuff done in one simple little call. And then system. This is the one that we like because this is the one where we unload the crap on the system. This is the one that allows you to say, hey, snooze this for 10 minutes. Probably the most used example of the system. The other most used, well actually, sorry, the most used one is the dismiss. Dismiss this, there's a little X on it or whatever, dismiss that, and it immediately institutes a system tap or a system activation type. Although that's built into the toast notification UI component on the desktop. But creating something like a calendar that says, hey, let me dismiss this for 2 days or 3 weeks, you can set that to whatever you want it to be. Special toast scenarios. Mother's Day. So here we go, alarm. Toast scenario, alarm. This is one of those ones that uses the system activation type.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you dismiss a message for X number of hours or days, does that get posted into that scheduling tool? 250 or
Yes.
is that?
Yeah. It stays in. So what happens is, actually, so the question was, if you snooze something for a certain amount of time, does it go back into that scheduling pool? The interesting thing is, it actually never left. So it sits in the scheduling pool until the system has dismissed it. So if you snooze it, the system just goes, oh, I'm going to reset the time for this particular toast to a time or date in the future and leave it alone. I'm not going to do anything with it. So it doesn't take up any more space, and it doesn't get taken out and put back. The reason being is probably the scenario you're thinking of. What happens if someone's snoozing something while I'm trying to put something else in, and it uses up the number? Well, you're not going to have that scenario because the item doesn't come out until the user has dismissed it. Okay? One of the few logical things they did.
Did they get something right?
Yeah, but honestly, if anybody listening to any of my talks from Microsoft, they were just like, they'd never hire me. I'm okay with that, actually. So, incoming call. This is actually a toast, for all intents and purposes. And I'm sure nobody ever really thought of it that way, but this is essentially the exact same thing. It's a notification that pops up and says, hey, you want to take this? And it's especially that way for things like Skype and other things. It doesn't open up all of Skype to have you accept a Skype call. It opens up a special system toast that says, hey, do you want to talk to this person? So alarms are toasts. I don't think we really need to. Interactive toast. So let's see if the code works. Let's see.
Are we taking bets here?
What?
Are we taking bets?
I wouldn't personally, but let's see. All sorts of different wonderful notifications, and to keep your users engaged, okay? Tiles, badges, toasts, app-specific data that allows you to re-engage the user and make sure that they're coming back to your application over and over again. Make sure that you're aware of the UI and what you're sending out both for length so that you're not costing money as far as data, and so that you're not spending money as far as the cost of your own server costs. So there's also another type of notification we haven't talked about. You have tile badge toast and raw. Raw is just literally exactly what it sounds like, raw data. You can send a push notification with raw data that your application can then absorb and make use of to show the user relevant current information. The WNS, or the Windows Notification Service, is one service across devices. It's been that way for a fair while now. It allows you, it gives you one basic process to use to push the information, and one template set to use to push your notification information to both Windows and Windows Phone. Excuse me, apps. We're gonna okay, so what you start off with is in Windows. You have your Windows app, okay? It will push out to a notification client platform, okay? So it basically says to Windows, I want to be notified when new stuff happens, okay? The notification platform gives it an ID that's anonymous to everything, but identifies that particular instance and that app, and then sends it out to the developer service so that the service can then generate the information that it needs and send it to the Windows notification service, and which then gets pushed back into the notification platform and back to the app. Okay? It's a fairly, it sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. Basically what happens is the user goes, hey, I want push notifications. This is I'm Bob. The name Bob gets sent and put on the list, and the developer when the developer services goes through and goes, oh, I gotta give everything, okay, Bob needs this. Bob gets this. It throws it back down to the notification service. The notification service says, Bob's over there. Sends it to Bob. When it gets to the device itself says it goes to that app. Done. Okay? It's not really super complicated. There are lots of examples of it out there. It's fairly easy to institute, and if you want to find the simplest way to do it, go to Azure Mobile Services and look for it there. It's literally, I think, 3 clicks and you're done. It's ridiculously easy. So, instituting a push notification channel from within your application is really simple. Okay, you use the channel notification manager to create, and don't you love the nice, tight naming conventions of the classes? And people wonder why I want a double wide monitor. Anyways, so there you go. You basically make a single call out to get the channel. You basically have a handler that basically tells it, I got notified. And you basically do what you're going to do with that notification. If it's a raw notification, otherwise it's handled by the system for tiles and things like that. So here is the sample Azure web app for push notifications. It's located right there. And I believe everybody here has the slides for this, right?
Yeah, they have the version that I got from.
Does it have this slide in it?
No.
Okay,
It's like
so
12
then
slides long.
copy that down and let me know when you.
It's got nothing to do with push.
You what?
The deck we have doesn't cover push.
Okay. Well, if you're interested in push, copy this down, let me know when you guys are all done with it, and I will move on.
That's it, so now they're on labs?
No.
No? Are we still talking?
Let's still-
Why don't you keep talking and then put this back up?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. I'll put this back up later. Good idea. Okay, so there's also a notification simulation engine in Visual Studio. So you can simulate and test what the toast notifications are going to look like, and you can test the scenarios and how they work and what happens with them. Okay, so push payloads can be all of the exact same things that you can send from locally from within your app. You can send tile, toast, badge, and raw, and all the same templates work, okay? Including the traditional old templates from the older catalogs and the new flexible ones from the current catalog. So, Action Center and Quick Actions. We're going to just breeze through this because this is a very thin subject. So, Action Center Management APIs. There are ways you can manage the toast notifications and the app notifications for your application, and you should. Has anybody opened up an app and then gone through it only to find that they then have to clear the notifications about that goddamn thing you just went through in the app? So frustrating, users hate it. I recommend that you do it. In Targeting, what I do is every time you open a team, it clears any toast notifications for that team out of your notification center automatically, just by opening the team. And I do that because I use the grouping and the IDs in the toast themselves. So you use the group to notify that it's a particular team, and I just say, go clear out all the ones for this team. So in other words, TNH remove group. Okay? Very simple thing. You should make use of it. It's very, very helpful. So, make sure that if the user taps on a notification in the Action Center, that the app opens. It should open to the corresponding item. It should never crash. Okay? Even if it doesn't open to the corresponding item, ensure your app doesn't crash when you open it with a tile or with a toast. Okay? Also, one of the biggest things, one of the things that I find is the most annoying, and this happens a lot with games, is you go in to play the game, you use up all the things that should take up all the numbers for the badge, and the badge doesn't go away. So I think, God damn it, I gotta play Words with Friends with 3 more people. Oh, also, if you're using the app, if you're using the application or Action Center and the tiles, you must be consistent. Don't on the tile have it that you have 5 unread things. In the Action Center have that you have 2 unread things, and open up the application and find that there's 6. Okay? You can confuse and really annoy the user. So you can actually, you can tell from within your application if the channel, or if your history has changed in the application center, or in the Action Center. Now, in this trigger, you can set, so there's a number of different new background tasks. One of them is using this type of trigger that says every time the toast notification history is changed, trigger this background task. This is what allows you that once users have dismissed things in the Action Center, that you can then update the tile count on the badge count. And this is how you would use it. So that's it for that. So any questions? If you write an application, you don't want to put it in the store, you just want to deploy it to your company or whatever.
Yeah.
How would you do it? So there actually are faculties in the store to handle that, where you could deploy it to the store and make it not searchable and not visible in the store, where you could just send links to people, then they can install it. The advantage of that is it's much harder to sideload in some scenarios, depending on the rules. But there are also sideload scenarios that are available as well. When you do implement an app or sideload or load an app from the store, it's assigned to the ID of the person who did it. So if you are logging in with different IDs on the device, you would have to re-institute it from each of those IDs.
Right.
It doesn't just become a global thing. And I don't think there is, Andre, have you seen anything where there's the ability to make an app stay there no matter who it is? I know there's a system level version of that, but I don't think it's available to us.
No, all
Is
apps installed.
User to a user scenario, yeah. So as far as I know, you can't do that at the at our level right now. I think it's only a first party, which means Microsoft,
Right.
or like HP, or someone like the hardware vendor or Microsoft that can do that. I would be very surprised if you don't see that coming out though in the next year or so. Like I honestly literally haven't heard any talk of it, but just given the usage scenarios and the things where that pops up and will pop up for company and organization, and knowing Microsoft's focus on the enterprise right now, I would expect that you'll probably see something like that.
I think you can use beta version. If you put beta version on the designated users can use it.
So beta version. So beta version is sort of a weird thing because the way they're doing beta version in the store isn't really a beta version. It's just a private version that you send a code out to people, and you basically have to give them a code to redeem the code to allow them to download it, right? And making it undiscoverable.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to just the specific people, you put the beta version.
Well, and that's what I told them. Yeah, you could do that. So basically, put it in the store and invite people, like send them the link to a redeem code that would allow. The issue that he's saying is that if several people are using the same machine, they can't all see the app. They basically all have to install, for all intents and purposes, a license to use that thing, right? Partly because the system itself tracks usage, and also you're going to want to be able to track usage too, right? Because you're less worried as a developer on the single machine usage and more interested in the user instance usage, right?
Right.
Because that will vary drastically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of used to writing apps. Again, I just work for like companies.
And you're thinking of the
mostly just
traditional
locally,
Win32 sense where you put something on there and everybody can use it.
Yeah. So and just I don't know. I mean, you said I think your son said with Windows 8 there was a lot of rules to the store, but is there still rules too? Like if I'm putting on a beta version, does it have to do they have to inspect it or anything like that?
So what they do is they do what's called the WAC test. It's the Windows Application Certification Kit. They run it through to make sure it's not going to blow up the device.
Right.
It's not going to completely fry or anything. It's not accessing libraries. It's not allowed to access them.
Right.
Just things like that. But it doesn't go through a full certification process.
Right. Okay.
Right now, one of my big beefs in the store is the data process is clunky and slow. It's getting better, but we're still.
Right. So that's pretty much it, though. Basically, you publish the store and then have private things to it.
Basically, well,
For the time being.
that's the recommended way.
Right.
Side loading is always a bit of a dog.
Yeah. What is side loading? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that term.
Well, so you can send the Apex, and basically it comes out being a folder with the Apex file and a PowerShell script that you right-click and choose active or install or run the PowerShell script, and it will install the app locally. But it's not the thing you're going to send to someone in accounting to do, right? It's not the same as double-clicking on it like a batch file or an installer used to be. In the Win32 days. It's more of it's going to open this up and then it's going to check credentials, and then you may have to log something in, and it's going to check for a developer license. There's things around it that make it a little messier of an implementation.